Haha, I'm in, and he doesn't even realize it yet. He's gonna be so mad when I upload.
Brat, what are you doing here?
Hi Wookie. I'm just here to make a new thumbnail for your next video.
Which video?
I haven't decided yet.
Right, I'm sure that's what this is. Not you messing with any video storage or anything.
I would never, but it might serve you well to listen to some of my suggestions on new videos.
Well, what do you have in mind?
Casting and LAN events, you know me.
Honestly, not a bad idea. This is a surprisingly loaded topic, and it's topical with Momocon coming up. Are you gonna help though?
You got it.
What's up guys? Today we're going to talk about what I would call the Mario Kart community casting crisis. This is one of those many issues I have with the scene that doesn't feel like a code red emergency, but definitely needs addressing in the near future. I've been doing match commentary for nearly a decade at this point and feel like I've learned a lot and improved steadily over time, so to try help motivate the next generation of casters, I want to share what I know. But of course, despite this experience, there's only so much I can say, and still some stuff that I'm not the best at, so to help out, I'm bringing on my main commentary partner, Princess Brat, to join our discussion today.
Yeah, I'm glad I could join. After all, being a strong commentator on your own isn't always enough. You need to be able to work with someone else, and having different people with different strengths can only add new layers to the content, whether that be in a cast or a video like this. You can't just run two play-by-play guys at once unless they can adapt to each other very well.
Well, I guess to start things off, I want to ask you a question. I mainly started casting matches online. You, on the other hand, have always been focused on LAN tournaments. In recent years, I kind of find that the cast of Wi-Fi matches have been kind of in a crisis state. Viewership and volunteer interest has dwindled. We've had canceled casts because of there just being no stream host available, even for the big events like MKU finals. On the other hand, in-person LANs have kind of been thriving in this regard, so I want to ask, why do you think this is? It is the same job, technically speaking, just done in different settings. Are there any lessons that you think we should be taking away from LANs?
Well, to me, the answer feels obvious if you've ever attended a LAN. I've casted a few online tournaments before, and there's something different about casting in person. For example, being able to see the player reactions and hear the live audience eruptions in the moment adds to the experience, which is often missing online. And of course, seeing the casters on camera makes a big impact as well. Actually seeing the people speaking, who are typically just a voice online, adds a personal touch to the overall show and what's going on. It feels more personable and has an overall more complete and professional experience. I also think there's a bit more of an unpredictable factor too. So, for example, FFA is not a format we frequently see online, but there's a lot of excitement hovering that event in particular because almost anyone can win. Being able to bring discussion into possible upset situations keeps people on the edge of their seat, and it's really exciting to cover as a commentator. So if I had to guess, these are just a few examples as to why in-person casts can feel a little bit more desirable.
It seems like a lot of the stuff is LAN exclusive. I guess that kind of means a few things though. First, online tournament cast will just need to work harder down the road to keep up, but also, this means that they will provide more opportunities for up-and-comers to prove their skills on the mic, which could maybe open them up for bigger gigs down the road. But I guess before anything else, maybe we should just brush up on what we believe makes a good caster to begin with. While the LAN casting crew is in a pretty good state right now, in my opinion, I imagine you think it's probably not yet reached its final form. Do you think that there's another gear for LAN casting to reach?
Oh, absolutely. We're really only scratching the surface currently. It's good that there's a lot of interest in volunteering for our events, so much that we have enough for a side stream for Momocon next week. But while everyone seems to have some interest in being a caster, it's a whole nother conversation on whether or not they see it as a fun idea or truly want to be a great one.
Yeah, I totally get that. I've always kind of seen broadcasting as the easiest community job to do, but the hardest one to actually be really good at. On the other hand, very few people offer to host streams, despite that role always being a desperate need. I feel like it's a great role for training yourself to become a great caster too. The best casts feel like stories told live while they're happening, but as a host, knowing when to change perspectives can kind of act like the training wheels toward getting there. But anyways, what do you personally value in a caster?
Well, it sounds obvious, but I value those who truly come prepared. This goes beyond just standard practice and making sure that any swearing is out of your caster dialect. There are many people who have hopped on the mic before and immediately have to start asking a bunch of questions about things that they should probably already know. But when you have to ask about the player, it just comes across like you haven't really done your homework and didn't think they were worth learning about. How many times has someone exceeded all expectations in a tournament and gone on a run just to not be talked about in their big moment because a caster is either afraid of talking about someone, or they don't know them, or are just unaware that they're having a standout performance? It's easy to sometimes miss this stuff when there's 11 other players in the room, and that's not going to get any easier with World coming up. But I guess the point is, so many people and teams want the opportunity to be casted and rarely get it. Focusing on them when it's appropriate can turn a good experience into an unforgettable one.
Yeah, I felt this especially in the online settings. I've been guilty of mispronunciations before, and with all the ridiculous registration names on MK Central, it's hard to even refer to players by their most common name. Often pronouns are a mystery too, making it even more difficult. I've noticed that many online casters have just made the assumption that everyone is a guy on the internet, which literally is not true, and your name really shouldn't have to be Princess Brat just for a caster to say she. So I do hope in the future we can have a database that makes all this information more readily available.
In general, more information is just better too, beyond just player identity questions. Not only should we be fixing this, we should be taking the next step as well. With a growing community, it is impossible to know everyone, let alone what makes them unique. But this just makes preparing ahead of events and knowing teams or players all the more important. The last few major LAN events, ahead of time, I've gone around logging an Excel sheet with information about the players, their achievements, and some fun facts. You'd be surprised how much mileage you can get for a cast out of something like this.
I mean, look at Evenator.
I'm not gonna lie, that was actually one of my favorite LAN stories to date. So, for context, I asked the players at Riptide to share some fun facts prior to the event, and this unfamiliar player to me named Evenator submits his fun fact as, I matched a girl on Tinder, told her my Yoshi circuit time, and she unmatched me right after. Yeah. While this is obviously heartbreaking for this poor guy, he did find enough humor in it to share his fun fact with us.
There goes Evenator. There he goes.
Evenator, go!
He is in first. He is running it up. This is what we play for.
Dude, let's go. He's on the Yoshi bike.
Oh, there is a blue
wow,
that's
he's
out
actually
right now.
Cooking.
If he pulls a horn, she has to match him again.
Wherever she
Not
is
happening.
out there, wherever she is.
I mean, we are still in first right now.
And to be clear, he said it was fine for me to say it on cast.
You're just trying to justify it.
Come on, man. And lo and behold, as we are discussing this tragic moment on stream, Yoshi Circuit is selected on the track roulette, and we erupted due to the irony. Obviously, we don't have control over the track selector, but having that information prior to the cast planted a seed, and it grew into a story to follow during that race. And to make matters crazier, Evenator was actually a serious contender in that race too. He ended up getting second place.
That was like by far his best placement, if I'm not mistaken. Like it was like notable that he TT'd on it. But I guess I think the takeaway here is just to take genuine interest in what you're doing. When you are a fan, you'll just want to do the research. And not only does this extra research make the cast more interesting and personable, it can give spectators more rooting interest if they end up resonating with one of the players too.
Yeah, for sure. But preparation doesn't just stop here either. At our gigs, I always try to bring additional lights, mics, my laptop, a notebook, even some sound barriers, like anything that maybe helps a little bit.
Thanks, by the way. Sorry.
You're welcome. For online, this might mean you just invest in a higher quality mic, and this all should just kind of be standard. This is still a job at the end of the day, and while it's fun and rewarding, people need to be in it for the right reasons. I know many people think of this gig as like showing up and talking, but the job really extends out so much more than that. They need to be in it for the preparation too. It's not just the talking part. The job requires you to be a well-rounded person who just naturally knows and understands the player base, but that takes time. So while it's important to look for new casters who want the opportunity, this is a part of the reason why I think training on a side stream is necessary for moving forward. Having some guest casters on a secondary stream with a lower initial expectation gives us an extra way to monitor new talent, scout for improvement, and see how serious the job is being taken. I think this will be how we have a lot of success finding additional staff, by giving passionate people a chance to volunteer and contribute in a really meaningful way before immediately adding them to the team without any trial run.
I think this kind of leads me into some of the other traits I look for in a caster as well, going along with your point of understanding the player base. I have talked to some players in the scene that have suggested that they watch cast on mute somewhat frequently, and of course, I find that to be an issue. When I ask why that's the case, the critique is typically just that the cast doesn't really add anything for them, and that it kind of just acts as a reaction video instead. I think this makes your preparation all the more important, because the average viewer isn't going to know the things about these players that you've learned, for instance. But I think beyond just getting into the minds of our players out of the game, we could also be doing a little bit more to dive in during the matches as well.
Yeah, I get that. It's easy for commentators to kind of just default to only talking about what they see on the screen. Of course, what's happening on the screen is important, but the problem is that everyone in the audience is perfectly capable of doing that on their own. A caster should be wanting to add new insights to the experience, and often that comes with discussing strategy. I'll just say that when I was getting back into Mario Kart a few years ago, I really appreciated the cast where I felt like I was learning something. They made me really appreciate the little things that go into being a top player.
It can be important for discourse about the game too, because if casters are not covering the intricacies of the game, or they even incorrectly attribute something to just being a matter of bad luck, when it isn't, that can shape the outsider's perspective of the game and whether or not they even see it as worth playing. And that can be dangerous. And don't get me wrong, fun reactions to genuine misfortune are a big part of these casts, but the thing is, how you react to certain things can speak to your credibility as a caster in some ways. Not only is it true that many downfalls are actually deserved, but not every hit is a big hit, for instance. And it is important to peak at the right time, because if you overreact to something that isn't all that consequential, you can fall into the trap of conditioning your audience to not fully buy into what you're selling them. So you really want to save your best reactions for the craziest, most impactful moments. You want it to really mean something when the unfathomable takes place. I think this is something we did well with the Mount Wario races closing out the last two 2v2 tournaments at Momocon. Part of what made It's the Same Script so memorable was the fact that it was authentic. The audience knew that we weren't just reacting because that's what casters do. They knew this very moment in particular was different. They knew it was a moment in history, I'd say.
You speak about peaking at the right time. Could you go more into depth on this? I think maybe there's more to uncover here.
Yeah, for sure. I guess it all relates back to storytelling in a sense, though. When someone hops on a stream like this for the first time, they likely aren't going to know what to look for initially, and you already have a small window to sell them on an idea that piques their interest. And that's why you kind of need to give a storyline to follow, in my opinion, because stories are interesting. Some people literally make a living selling them after all, and I mean, look at this video. It's not like this is some random assortment of our opinions on casting. We're kind of having a real conversation based on ordering and scripting out those opinions. There's a flow to it, and I believe it's more engaging this way. So if the player information you keep tabs on is a bit of a character introduction, our plot is made up of the races themselves. This plot might change by round or by tournament. Is it a team match or is it a free-for-all? Is it the final round where it's first place or go home, or is it a standard top 6 move on to the next round setting? Because if it's the latter, you might want to center the discussion around the drama of who is going to be advancing rather than who is winning. There's a main distinction between the stories we tell and the ones that are commonly written in books, and I think it's what makes sports and esports so special to begin with, actually. The main characters aren't chosen by the casters, because while we are telling the story, the writers are the ones that are actually playing the game. It is our responsibility to get the details right and to focus on the most impactful moments to share.
Do you have any good examples?
Yeah, last year I did a free-for-all round with Pyrus at Momocon, covering one of the quarterfinal rooms, and immediately after a few races I noticed that Vantox, the winner of the tournament the year prior, had a slow start, and I made it a point of emphasis. We discussed his track preferences, strategies he could look at to get back into the game, and the risk of not doing so quickly enough. And he actually executed it all to a T to get back above the top 6 line just one race later.
Gotta watch out. There's a storyline right here. Vantox is out of the top 6.
Right.
Races
That's
in.
very, very scary for Vantox. You have to, lock in. Gamer lean. You gotta be, I'm ready.
I mean, this is last year's champion.
Yeah.
And there's still 5 races left. He's not super far out, but you gotta turn this around fast, because if you don't, some of these other players at the top
Right.
might smell blood in the water.
And yeah, and when they smell blood in the water, they're ruthless. They do not stop attacking. They go boom, 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 first, over and over and over.
I know that Vantox is not particularly a Waluigi Stadium enjoyer from what I know, but
he's not.
As we got to watch for the shrooms early, because that cut can be the avenue to a 3-lap front run very easy.
Messing up his plan
Vantox
right here.
did pull a shroom right now. He's still got a few people he's got to pass.
And it's so important to note that he has that 6 points, which is a lot more than most people have. It's so hard to get coins on this track. You usually go wide for these coins.
Funnily enough, though, it didn't even stop there, because every race there seemed to be a new player that was considered a potential finalist who fell into that danger zone, and we were able to follow their perspectives a bit more. These players kept winning, and we were able to capture practically all of it live. And it maybe came across as some kind of witchcraft, but really all it was just following the most interesting potential developments.
Soldier's currently in 6th. Soldier's going to be a really important perspective to look at this race, obviously holding on to 6th. Somebody who I believe is a threat to take this tournament as well.
It's not going to land.
Not going to land.
Soldier's going to be in that 2nd place, which is such a huge race for him, because he's going to be able to creep more into that top 6 and not be able to be eliminated.
Not just that, also, but Pat's actually kind of stuck in the back there, and that creates a much more sizable gap. And suddenly, Blaze is now on the cusp of being tied for 6th with Jason right there. I got a fun fact about Blaze. I think he might actually be I can't verify it, but I know he had the world record on this track on week 1. Might have been the first person to have it. That being said, that was week 1.
That's such a
Is Blaze going to get first on this track? We're going to have to find out. He takes it up top. Everybody we follow is just getting these immaculate dubs. The only possible way that Pats can make it right now. So if he gets first, Soldier gets last, and he beats him in a tiebreaker. That's just so. And Jason doesn't pass him.
That's just like so. Like, you need the luck of a lifetime.
Can we catch up at all? Maybe. Oh, watch out! He gets Blaze. Wait, Pats was one. Where's Soldier? Where's Soldier?
It was really fortunate that we had a good stream host of Duo Studios 2, who allowed us to kind of direct them to the right perspectives in a sense. And ideally, you want the casters and stream hosts to be on the same page in this regard and ready to jump around, rather than just casting whatever gameplay footage is in front of you. Because a holistic view of the lobby is essential when it comes to the story building element, and something we've truly actually been lacking online for years now for the Wi-Fi tournaments.
I remember last year when we casted a semifinal match, Gluba had taken a massive lead early on in the round, and you randomly suggested halfway in that he might end up being the one who has the most stressful race 12.
Could you imagine if Gluba ends up being like one of the people that doesn't get through after like this first half?
He's so far ahead.
I wouldn't put it past this lobby,
points in first.
I would not put it past this lobby,
He would have to tank his entire last GP for that to happen.
And then he did. Are you sure that isn't witchcraft?
I can assure you it wasn't, but I will say this again emphasizes the importance of talking about everybody and how the room's going, because I got the vibe that nobody was really safe in that lobby, even compared to normal, because nobody was able to consistently front run. I would never in my life have predicted them to be on the verge of elimination, but sometimes when you just bring up trends and potential talking points, you accidentally strike gold with one. But of course, for that to happen, you have to be willing to plant the seed in order for there to be any chance of it growing.
You got into some track details and strategies too, and trust me, I know the answer already, but for the sake of the video, how would you recommend gaining all the knowledge required to bring this up on the spot?
Well, a lot of this is textbook stuff that can just be learned and repeated, but you're really only going to learn fully by playing and observing the game in settings where you truly care as well. As a textbook example though, there was another moment in our semifinal round last year where Paris got selected, and the only biker in the room, Garchomp, was 9th place in the standings at the time. I don't believe he even picked the track, but I pointed out that the course was kind of a bit of a blessing for him, given the advantage that bikers have early in races on that course.
This has got to be a sigh of relief, I believe, for Garchomp. I don't know about personal track taste, but this is an insanely good bike track.
And within 10 seconds, he went from 5th to 1st, never looked back, and was suddenly in 4th place in the standings after the race. But not everything is always going to be that simple. Sometimes you're going to need to minimap read, understand star and shock ranges, understand space in general, or just infer player actions. And though it can be difficult, making it a point of emphasis to memorize who is using what character will make your job a ton easier as well, and help you make inferences that a more relaxed viewer will not be making. It's of course our job to pick up on these things, as they're vital information that's very easily missable.
Do you have any examples of these things too?
Yeah, there's a few I can point back to in the same semifinal round. Typically there always is really. On race 2, there's a red shell chasing Vantox on DK Summit, and we were commenting about how he was waiting until the last possible second to go into his ghost and dodge it. Right after it all, I comment about how shocks are common at this item set because of how players are typically distanced due to the cannon, given that he was in a dodge. And this kind of puts the viewer on extra notice about the shock possibility when we do that, and then when it happens right after the boo ends, we both kind of laugh about it a little.
And there it is, right out of his ghost.
JBG. Race 5, Tyler Shroom dodges a blue shell at the end of lap 2 on Daisy Cruiser and immediately backs his pocket bomb well ahead of the first set. This was a bit of a surprise attack, but also a risky play, but you implied that because of the lobby spacing, that he was unlikely to be punished for it, and sure enough, some fire comes up at second place right after, Tyler breaks away, and even when Royal is in second with a red later on, he doesn't even see a purpose in throwing it at Tyler, who is just gone in first, and he goes on to win. On race 11, Tynan drops out of first to let Blaze into first with a mushroom on lap 3 of DK Mountain. This is ordinarily a good transaction for the mushroom holder, but immediately I sounded the alarms on this for Blaze, because it was going to cancel the upcoming shortcut for him. This is just a classic I've been there before kind of moment. And finally on Wii Rainbow Road, the last race, there were multiple people on the brink of elimination. We were able to determine who was in a safe spot all throughout the race, even if they were just hanging out in 5th, but on lap 3 it looked like it was going to come down to Blaze and Gluba. That was until Royal was suddenly just off the track, and because I knew he was the only pink Yoshi in the room, I was able to put him back into the storyline without on-screen confirmation of it.
Royal's in 12 also, but has that point advantage right now.
And had Blaze not been hit at the end, perhaps that would have mattered a ton and added to the suspense of the final results tally.
And that was literally all examples from a single tournament round?
Yeah, and honestly, I probably would have found more examples too if I rewatched it. Most of these were just kind of in the memory banks, but I'll just say if you get invested and truly care about the storylines, making these connections will become second nature with time. And they will help you make more accurate predictions down the road too. As you continue seeing the game, you start recognizing circumstances and their natural effects, much like a professional chess player does too.
It kind of sounds like this is how connections between the Mount Wario races get made.
Yeah, or even stuff like Evanator. If you didn't find it so funny, the irony of Yoshi Circuit coming up probably would have gone unrecognized.
That's so true. I guess the point is, it's nice when things fall into place, but the casters have more control in that than one might realize. Maybe it feels coincidental, but controlling and creating the storyline based off of the available information is why the storyline often falls into place or comes full circle. I guess last question. Do you think this is all essential for every caster?
Honestly, I do. Obviously, some casters will have different strengths and weaknesses, but there will come times where a play-by-play or color commentator is just going to have to go out of their comfort zone situationally. And it's always good to be confident that your information's accurate, so improving your game knowledge is always going to be essential regardless, as is checking yourself on facts no matter where you are at as a player. In the Smash scene, former top players often make legendary commentators. I think it's because they understand the grind and have a growth mindset regarding any new tech. But what makes it all work is that they stay current, even if they aren't really active as a player anymore.
Well, I think we covered the game a bit, so to wrap it up, mind if I tackle a few loose ends here?
Please do.
Perfect. Let's discuss some casting etiquette then. I see a lot of common mistakes by rookie casters.
Watch it now.
I was stopping, you know what I meant.
Sorry.
Anyway, new casters often fall into some traps, beyond just focusing on solely what's on the screen. It seems like many are a bit too straightforward or by the book, and many are a bit too loose and struggle with focus. It doesn't really feel authentic either way. There has to be a balance, like any real conversation. Of course, if I had to recommend one style, I would suggest being more straightforward and trying to learn as you go, because if you come on too strong, it can be a bit off-putting. Sometimes casters will throw out a bunch of their opinions or takes, and this is a practice that is commonly repeated by new casters, but the thing is, it doesn't exactly have the same effect when they do it, as opposed to a veteran. But of course, even veterans can come on too strong sometimes too. Remember, people are likely watching because they care about the tournament. They are not watching because they care about your opinions. And if you hop on the mic for the first time and start talking about X track being dog water, you're just gonna feel out of place and actually bother people who don't agree with you. making it easier for them to see you negatively. To really even get to the point where sharing takes like this feels more natural, you need to build up your connection with the audience. And this isn't really something that's going to happen in just one commentary block either. People are really only going to care about your takes if they've formed a connection with you as a speaker and an entertainer. And they aren't going to give you the benefit of the doubt if you haven't earned it in their eyes either. Furthermore, the timing of your takes matter too. Are you doing it during a race, or are you filling the air during downtime? You can even avoid some negative backlash if you preface it with it being your own opinion, rather than just assuming everyone's going to be on your side.
Ooh, I like this one. There have been multiple times where this has kind of just driven me insane, even with casters that have a solid amount of clout. But I guess the point is, there's a time and place for everything.
Right, and break times are great for it, to be honest. Break times demand conversations like this, but it's important to emphasize that the tournament races are about the players themselves. And if they like a certain track, they probably have a reason to. I personally know how this feels, since my favorite track in the game is often heavily disliked, and I get ridiculed all the time for it.
Got it. No more Sky High Sunday hate.
Thank you! But furthermore, I understand that there's going to be times where you go on a tangent during a race. Sometimes it's relevant, and it does add a little bit of flair to the cast, but it's fine to get off topic a little bit. After all, it's personable and creates a sense of authenticity. But as a caster, you need to know when to dial it back a bit and focus on the race itself again. No one wants to hear you ramble on about something when there are really exciting things to be commenting on during the race.
I guess it's just a general question. Do you have any go-to subjects for downtime? Like, if there's a room crash, how do you fill the gaps?
Well, I come prepared with a spreadsheet full of time fillers in case if I'm ever drawing a blank or need a topic to discuss during a break. And as someone who mainly casts at conventions, I always try to talk about the con itself, or our sponsors, or, of course, my favorite thing is to thank the people who are running the show. And while our job is a tough one that even requires us to be okay with being a little bit vulnerable, it's worth noting that there are other essential jobs that are being done behind the scenes that are pretty difficult too. Breaks are a good time to thank the entire staff because the rest of the team allows us to thrive in our role. But additionally, as the camera-facing representatives, it's our job to get people excited about the event as well. I always talk about the cool things that happen outside of the game. I want to make people at home want to be there the following year. It's a big opportunity to hit on the FOMO factor, and I believe capitalizing on that is why we've been able to harness positive growth as much as we have every year.
There was also that time where we played 20 questions Mario Kart Track Edition, but I think we only allowed 5 questions because 20 is just way too much.
That was fun too. Those are the types of things I think you have to be okay with not doing though, only really pulling them out if the stream really needs you to entertain, of course.
I guess to add on to your point about authenticity as well, I feel like a lot of this comes from your role in the community when you aren't casting too. For instance, we interact regularly at our own local tournaments, and I feel that builds a natural chemistry that stems directly from our own involvement in the scene, and it translates to the booth as well, whether that's during races or during break periods. People want commentary that feels like a real back and forth discussion, not one that's manufactured, right?
Yeah, I think it kind of speaks to your credibility as well. When you're attending and helping organize local events or helping the online community, it shows a level of commitment to what you're doing. If you clearly have a passion for what you're doing and would volunteer for stuff, even if only 5 people were watching, I feel like that speaks to the audience as well. People tend to notice that stuff and realize where your heart truly lies. We don't want people who would see this as an opportunity to advance themselves because the audience will be able to sniff that out very quickly. So I would say that if you're interested in commentary, find ways to get involved first, whether that be on secondary streams or online casts. Conventions are always going to have limited caster blocks available, and there's plenty of people interested already. So instead of going for the big LAN gigs immediately, find ways to show that you care. Casters ultimately have a job to represent the community when they're live, and the best way to succeed in doing that is for your involvement to just be natural.
I guess it should be mentioned that if people kind of just expect to start at the top 2, or would be willing to take shortcuts to get there, it all eventually leads to a lower quality outcome. Like, if you're just wanting to gas up certain familiar players without learning about the whole scene at large, you might miss out on other developing storylines as well. You want to make sure you have all the possibilities covered.
Yeah, I think that's important to state because I don't want to say that people who strictly want to cast shouldn't lock in on that specific role. It's just, if you want to be that guy who is in front of the camera making iconic calls, I just want to reiterate that it takes work and a love of the process itself. It's not just what comes with it.
Yeah, and I've got to admit, it is rewarding. Some of my favorite moments doing this have been at tournaments like Riptide, where the parents of players have approached us and not only thanked us for what we do, but asked us to take pictures with them. And it's humbling, but a big part of that feeling just comes from knowing what goes into making the show run. Anyways, though, you got anything else?
Yeah, just a few more things. Even if you are just a spectator, feel free to give us feedback or your thoughts on what we talked about, whether it's now or in the future. It is critical for our improvement because what really matters here is how our casts actually are perceived and not just what we think is good. All of this discussion stems from comments that we've gotten from the viewer experience in the past. And for those aspiring casters in the future, be comfortable with feedback. Be willing to improve and make sure to not take it personally or give up or anything.
And I can say from personal experience, as you do it more, you'll be able to review yourself a bit too. I've done a lot of tournaments now and still struggle with overspeaking in my opinion, so it's an ongoing cycle for sure. And with Mario Kart World coming up, surely we're going to need more volunteers down the road, especially for online events. So hopefully this new era will renew that interest, creating better events to cover, and hopefully this could motivate a few people today to dip their toe in the water as well when it comes to Mario Kart media. Because a critical component when it comes to community growth stems directly from this media, including things like our tournament cast, especially the good ones.
Of course, before Mario Kart World, we still have Momocon 2025. Just remember, it will be taking place this weekend and will act as the final big US LAN event in the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe era. So if you have any interest in watching, you can check it out on the USMK Racing Twitch channel. Rookie and I will be covering the free-for-all finals at around 8 o'clock on Saturday night, and you definitely don't want to miss it.
And with that, I think that's about every topic we wanted to cover in some capacity. So thank you, Brat, for joining me on this today, as this was definitely a topic where more than one perspective helped a lot.
Of course, I'm glad I could be here. Just make sure you join the USMK Discord so you can find LAN tournaments near you.
I bet you wish you could pass out all those cards right now, but it's just a video, so you can't. Well, thank you all for tuning in as well. We hope to see you all at Momocon, whether that's in person or in the Twitch chat. So that'll be this next week for me, with the final Mario Kart 8 Deluxe videos coming up right after. See y'all.
Bye!
Like, if there's a room crash, how do you fill the gaps?
Well, I come prepared with a spreadsheet full of time fillers, just in case if I
didn't come prepared for that sentence. Got him.
Shut the fuck up. Do you want this thumbnail or not? It kind of sounds like this is how connections between the Why is it so hard to say Mount Wario?
You never realize how bad you are.
Like, tripping up on that too.
No, you never realize how hard English is until you're actually reading aloud. I like fuck up like the same sentence like 10 times in a row sometimes. I'd be like, this is really embarrassing. This would be really embarrassing if I couldn't cut this all out and people wouldn't know. And then sometimes I still mispronounce a word and put it in the final video, and then a YouTube commenter always posted it. It's like, seriously, bro. Yeah, so much so that you were trying to destroy my my footage in the beginning.
Uh-huh.
Got it. So no more. Got it. So shut the fuck up.
Sorry.
Like how you weren't even talking yet.
To really even get to the point where sharing takes feels takes like this. I see what you're saying.
Take 47,231.
You're one to fucking talk, bro.
But I think we only allowed 5 questions because 20 is just way too much.
You're so right. That was fun too. But I keep doing the
Yeah, I know. It's fine. We can cut those out. Start with those. That was a good take of the first part.
Okay. Those are the type of things I think you have to be okay with not doing, though. Only really putting them on the stream. Wait, hold on. What?
Starts.
Only really pulling them out
if the stream really. Yeah.
You know what it is? My glasses are all smudgy.
Yeah. Sure. Your fucking video recording Johns. I've seen it all.
I can't fucking read.
If you didn't find it so funny, the irony of Yoshi Circuit coming up probably would have gone unrecognized.
That's so true. Oh, I didn't realize that was even my next line.
No, you're supposed to continue. Have you not watched like an acting video or like an acting movie before where they finally get it, where they feel the raw emotion? That was your moment. You just fucked it up by acknowledging it.
It's okay, I'll just keep going.
Wow, I'm crying on camera right now. I guess I'm just gonna totally point it out instead of like acting.
Oh, that's so true. I guess the point is, it's nice when things fall into place, but the casters have more control, but the casters have more. Oh my god.
You're stuttering because you know that that's so true was a fake laugh that you tried to manufacture to repeat what you did the first time.
It was just so funny.
People want commentary that feels like a real back and forth discussion, not one that's manufactured, right? You're unbelievable.
Should put that in.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Definitely wouldn't be manufactured if that was the case.
Yeah, that's true.